What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the new movie, The French Dispatch. This one's starring Jeffrey Wright, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton, Timothy Chalamet, a bunch of others, and is directed by Wes Anderson. The story for this one goes like this. This film is a love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life a collection of stories published in the French Dispatch magazine. I'll start this one by saying that I'm a pretty big Wes Anderson fan. I've seen all of his movies a couple of times, so naturally I was excited for this new one to come out, especially since the last live action movie we got from him was way back in 2014. So let's dive right into this one. When it comes to the cast, I thought everyone did a pretty solid job here. His usual and massive A-list crew of actors is in this one to varying degrees, but the 4 or 5 that carry the most screen time fit right into this perfectly framed and quirky universe. If you ask me, the person that really stole the show here was Jeffrey Wright. When people ask me who's in this movie, I'll be saying his name first. I actually wish that his segment, which closed out the film, was the focal point of the entire production. I found the story to be the most interesting, the most comical, and the most Wes Anderson-like. I'm not sure if he's just been getting better roles or has just completely stepped up his game, but I've really enjoyed Jeffrey Wright over recent years. He's becoming someone that gets me excited about a movie when I see him on the cast list. He's great in Westworld, he's great in the James Bond films, he's great in this, and I have no reason to believe he won't be great in the upcoming Batman movie. Wes Anderson's signature style is very much on display in this movie, and I might say that this is his most daring and risky film in his catalog when it comes to the choices he makes with the camera. All of his usual dollhouse-like set pieces and tracking shots are utilized in this movie, but I think he's starting to get a little bit more ambitious and take his methods a bit further. Since he has such a signature style, it's easy to see him improve and build upon his usual techniques from past films. There's even a sequence in the movie that is completely cartoon animated, as if it were a newspaper comic strip, and it lasts for about 5 or 10 minutes. That decision might not be for everyone, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and thought it was a really cool way to keep the audience on their toes. It's used in a very creative and interesting way, too. It's utilized during the most action-intense portion of the movie, and since those types of scenes aren't particularly his forte as a director, I thought it was a good decision to film it a different way and make it undeniably his own. He clearly knows himself and what he excels at. When it comes to where I rank The French Dispatch against other Wes Anderson movies, I'd say it's definitely below The Grand Budapest Hotel, Bottle Rocket, Moonrise Kingdom, and Fantastic Mr. Fox. And I know that I'm listing a lot of titles there, and that might make you a little bit worried, but those 4 I just mentioned are the absolute top tier of his catalog, in my opinion. And although I think The French Dispatch is a good movie, I don't think it's on the same scale of excellence as those other titles. A couple things in this film didn't really work for me, starting with how some of the story itself was broken down. Like I mentioned earlier, the movie's designed like it's the last issue of a magazine called The French Dispatch. It plays as 4 different short stories, as if it were articles or columns from a publication. At first, I thought this was going to be a great idea because we'd be able to see Anderson give us his own little anthology story in a single film, but I actually think it detracted from the movie as a whole. The reason I love films like Moonrise Kingdom and The Grand Budapest Hotel are because of the relationships and the quirky interactions between the characters we spend the duration of the film with. In The French Dispatch, I didn't feel like I had enough time to fully invest and care about this new bunch of characters. And those moments that I love from Wes Anderson movies weren't able to present themselves in this new format. And that leads me to my next point. I feel like when you do an anthology movie like this one, more often than not, there'll be one segment that feels out of place or doesn't really fit with the vibe of the rest of the film, just due to the quantity of ideas you're trying to put on screen. And for me, I thought that the Timothy Chalamet and Frances McDormand segment was pretty dull, and I could have done without it completely. It wasn't bad by any means, but I just felt that it wasn't as tight and entertaining as the segments surrounding it, which prevents me from putting this movie in the same conversation as his other films, since I'm usually begging for his movies to go on as long as he'll let them. The French Dispatch gets a Sully score of 8.3. I didn't find it as wholesome or emotional as what I've come to expect from him after Moonrise Kingdom and The Grand Budapest Hotel. And although I found it interesting for Anderson to basically make 4 little movies in one, I would have rathered him focus on just just one or two ideas instead. But there's still a lot to enjoy here. Anderson's signature style is in full effect and is basically on steroids in this one, bursting with beautiful colors, interesting shot choices, and fantastic set pieces. His movies are always a treat and one of a kind, and I don't think this guy's actually ever made a bad movie. So that's my review of The French Dispatch. Let me know if you're gonna go check this one out in the comments below. And if you like new movie reviews, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so that I know you enjoy this type of content. And I'll see you guys at the next video.